welcome, kings and queens. Today we are talking Tyre Nichols. Mm. This is one of those updates that may or could be triggering. We've talked about the hard part of Tyrese's life having been taken by five Memphis police officers. But y'all, I don't know if you remember this. And one of my videos, and I have a playlist of Tyre Nichols, I said, be very careful. I saw this coming a mile away. I said, they're about to dig up everything about him and they are going to create, I called it out, nothing new. I said, they are going to create a divide within the Black community. And they were able to do just that. For those of you who are just tuned in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television, but most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to cover three things that I think are important. We're going to cover Demetrius Haley. Let's pinpoint him, for lack of a better word, as the Black Scorpion, okay? We're also going to talk about Omega Sci-Fi Fraternity. And the third item we're going to talk about is Tyrese disregard and blatant hate for Black women. I told you this is going to be a very triggering conversation. And if you know yourself to be emotionally sensitive and highly emotionally reactive to things that make you uncomfortable, now would be the time for you to log off. Because one of the first things that I'm going to start with that's near and dear to my heart is Tyrese's attitude and Tyrese's tweets towards Black women. Yeah, so this is very unfortunate. But I warned you all. I said most defense. I'm not going to even put it on the attorneys because we don't know the powers that be that are working behind the scenes to depict a negative picture of Tyre. But I'm not going to necessarily call it negative because it's factual. Tyre was very open verbally about his disregard and hate towards Black women, particularly dark-skinned Black women, which I happen to be a darker-skinned Black woman. And when I discovered this, I was extremely, extremely disappointed. And I'm like, damn, the world we live in today, right? Because hate begets violence. And it also brings about a divide because the same hate caused Tyre to lose his life, the hate of those police officers towards Tyre. So do you see the two parallels that are working in conjunction? We're talking about Black rage and Black hate from two opposite ends of the spectrum. Tyre, number one, who expressed his verbal discontent, his verbal hatred of dark-skinned Black women. And then you have the Scorpion Police, a part of the Memphis Police Department, that demonstrated a rage of hate by way of a brutal beating that led to his death. So we have two angles of hate working in parallel. Now, let me ask you all something. Did it change your opinion one way or the other when these tweets resurfaced regarding Tyre and his true feelings for Black women? Did it cause you to have any reaction? For those of you that are tuned in, any level of disappointment? Yes? No? And my second question, if so, why? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Is this one? Because a lot of people feel like that Black women should sit this one out. You know what? He didn't like you anyway. He was very verbal about it. So do you feel like, as viewers, that Black women should take a back seat and sit this one out? My other question to you is, where is all of this hate coming from regarding Black men toward Black women? Is this something that's new, or is this something that technology has allowed to be unveiled? Because I'll tell you what, it's very off-putting. It's very sad. And it probably will cause a lot of Black women to think twice about stepping up and providing support by way of protests, marches, outcries, and advocacy. Then what do? Where do you go from here? And I find it very ironic that Tyre would feel this way regarding darker toned, darker pigmented Black women when his grandmother and his mother are indeed representatives of that. So immediately, the first thing that came to my mind, because I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. And also, Tyre is a very, very dark skinned Black man. Was this tweet the product of self-hate, the product of resentment towards your mother and or your grandmother? Because I know his mother stood strong in the face of death, right? Regarding her son's life being taken away from this earth. But I can't help but to wonder, did something happen? Because how do you get from there to here? How do you get to a point where you publicly feel like it's okay? Anybody, not just Tyre, to really verbalize, express your disdain, your hate, your biasness towards anyone because of the color of their skin. I want to know. I'm curious. Y'all help me out in the chat. And please don't ask me not to talk about this and ask me not to overshadow his death by way of his tweets. I talk about everything. And remember, I prefaced this conversation by saying, if you're prone to be emotionally sensitive or emotionally charged by conversations and or topics that make you uncomfortable, I place that disclaimer out there that now would be your time to log off. So I really think it's time that we sat down and we have a real ass conversation. And we really talk about, where do we go from here? I'm going to be honest with you. Had I known then what I know now, I probably would not have covered this story. I would have sat it out. Okay? It's no different than covering a story of somebody else of a different race that hates me because of the color of my skin. You don't get a pass to me because we share the same pigmentation. Hate is hate, honey. Does it trigger me? No, it doesn't. Because I did a due diligence and I was coming from a very good place. So I know what I'm capable of when we don't involve emotions. But at the same time, I don't know. How do we get here? So I think that's a conversation that we need to sit down and have. But it's also important to me that if any of you can give me a little bit of background of this divide between Black men and Black women, where did it come from? Moving on. So let's talk about Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, which is a Black fraternity. Omega Psi Phi has terminated, the memberships of Tadarius, Bean, Demetrius, Haley, and Emmett Martin. And they terminated their memberships effective probably about a week ago. For those of you that are not familiar with fraternities, it's a Greek fraternity, Omega Psi Phi. You know, it's the purple and gold. They're known as the Q Dogs. All right. Good move. Salute to you, Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Now I want to move on to Demetrius Haley. That's the top dog. That's the brain of all of this. And for lack of a better word, I'm going to put it out there, sir. I don't know who Tyree was messing with, but I do feel like you were connected in some way with this woman. Now, the only reason why I'm not going to say she was messing with Tyree and she was messing with Demetrius is because his father said that's not true. Okay. But there's some type of woman. There's a woman that both of them have in common. We just don't know who, which is why I hold off from sharing a name. But it appears that Demetrius Haley was more emotionally invested in her to the point that he was willing to take it there. He was down for whatever. Okay. So that is your kingpin of all of this. That's the head in all of this. That's the scorpion's head. I'm sorry. And Demetrius Haley is one of the 5 officers that was accused of brutally beating Tyre Nichols to death. After a thorough investigation, it has been confirmed that Demetrius Haley did indeed use his personal phone on duty to snap pictures of Tyre Nichols in his final moments. Not only did he snap pictures, follow me, he sent the pictures to 6 people. 2 of the people, I'm sorry, hold on, let me count them. 1. So he sent one of the photos to an unnamed female acquaintance. And I think that's where the rumors begin to swirl that they have a common denominator in place. There's a commonality of a woman. Y'all, that's facts. We just don't know who she is. There's 4 other people that he sent the pictures to that are not policemen. Y'all, this was a planned execution. There's a lot of people in on this, including some that are not a part of the police department. Wait for it. And then there's 2 others that they do not want to name. Now, y'all got to help me out with this. We know he sent it to 4 people that are not a part of the police force. Why are you protecting the other 2 people? And not only that, who are they? If we can figure that out, we can begin to connect the dots as to the why. Okay? Now, the police department, Memphis Police Department, has also contacted POST, that's POST, Peace Officer Standards and Training, to request that the 5 officers are decertified. That means they want them to decertify them so that they can never, ever work again in any state as sworn in officers of the law. You're clapping, right? And you're saying good job. I did too. Until I stepped back and I said, wait a minute, hold on. Why the hell do you care where they work if your intent and your goal is to send them to prison for the rest of their lives? What do you mean? And even if, wait a minute, what's going on? Does that make sense to you? Y'all, I'm gonna leave you with this one, and I'm out of here. I don't think those officers will do a bit of time, and if they do, I think it is going to be very minimal. I think Memphis Police Department just showed their hands to you, because there should be no way in hell that your concern primarily is where they work next when they just took a life. Make it make sense.